This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
And welcome to the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeff Malinoff, and with me is Marc Souza. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm good. What's up?
I am back. I'm back from my little hiatus I had, family wedding. But other than that, there was a lot to happen in this weekend of sports, like the Red Sox winning the World Series, the first since 2013. And the fourth since their first win in 2004. So that's congratulations to them. We'll get on that in the first segment. And then the next segment, we'll talk about the NFL. And then all the games that have happened this week, as well as the Monday Night Football matchup between the Bills and the Patriots tonight. And in the fourth segment, we have a lot of other subjects to talk about, but we'll get on that once we hit that segment. But first things first, the Red Sox have defeated the LA Dodgers in 5 games, like I predicted they would. They won that game 5-1, ironically enough. And with the last out being Manny Machado striking out, falling to his knee, which was probably appropriate for how the series went. And the Red Sox had 119 wins total this season, including postseason, which puts them third as much as total wins in an entire season, which puts them up as one of the best teams ever.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we saw a dominant baseball team translate all that regular season dominance to the postseason. They really made easy work of 3 really good teams. When we look back at this postseason, we'll see that they took care of the Yankees, the Astros, and the Dodgers with relative ease. And those are 3 good baseball teams. So, it's a testament to them, as, oftentimes we see maybe teams struggle a little bit against the better competition, but the Red Sox just made it look very, very easy as they win. It seems like now another World Series title. It seems like they're just the baseball's model franchise, and they have been for quite some time.
Yes, and the World Series MVP went to Steve Pearce. I would say an unlikely World Series MVP.
I would say we could probably look this up, but if we were looking at before the series of odds to win the MVP, he probably wasn't in the top 8 or 9 for the Red Sox.
500 to 1.
I would say at least 2 starting pitchers, maybe Kimbrel, and then about 6 or 7 position players would have been in higher than him.
That sounds about right. But he definitely earned that MVP, though.
Oh yeah, it's awesome for him. He's a Red Sox fan. He played for every team in the American League East. He finally gets to play for the Red Sox. They win.
Yeah, pretty incredible story. But another story we need to talk about is the other side, the Dodgers. 2 World Series appearances back-to-back and 2 World Series losses, 1-7 and then 1-5. Is this the end of that run? Do you think they're going to make it back again, or is this like it could be a downhill slide?
Well, I think the Dodgers have a lot of young talent. They even have a lot of young talent still in the cupboard in their minor league system. They've been pumping out young players for a while, and if you remember, their starting shortstop Seager, he was out for the year this year after being injured earlier in the season, so he should be back. You got guys like Justin Turner. I fully expect Manny Machado to come back. I think the Dodgers will pay him, but there is a question mark about Kershaw. We'll talk about his situation in the last segment in a little bit more detail, but he probably will be back. But I mean, I think that they have a team built that can make more runs. You just have to wonder at this point if their 2 consecutive losses in the World Series will be something that lingers. You have to wonder if it will be something that, yes, the talent is there, but maybe the mental part of the game is just a hump they can't get over. You wonder if that'll affect them going into next season, because losing one World Series is obviously really rough, but losing 2 back-to-back, and then especially this one in the fashion that they did, it wasn't really much of a contest. You just have to wonder with a team like that.
It reminds me of the Texas Rangers when they went to back-to-back World Series, one in 2010 and then 2011. They lost to the Giants in 5 in 2010, then lost in 7 to the Cardinals in 2011. So, and then they haven't made it back since. So you also have to think about that instance. Like, this has happened to a team before, and they haven't recovered yet.
Yeah.
They're still in recovery to this day.
And you also have to be concerned about Kershaw because he is their ace. And they have young pitching. So guys like Walker Buehler, they really showed up this year. You know, even a guy like Rich Hill is a good pitcher. They have good pitching. They have good prospects. But you have to be concerned about their ace. Will he be back is a question. But will he be effective is another one. We know about his postseason struggles. But now his fastball is about 4 to 5 mile an hour slower than it has been before. And now he's 31 years old. And you have to wonder if just, you know, the mileage is starting to get up there with Kershaw. We didn't really see this until this year. It seems like all of a sudden we're now wondering if he's past his prime, if he's getting too old, like, you know. But now it's a thing. Like, his velocity being down was very real this postseason, and you could tell. I mean, he was a lot easier to hit than he has been. He
was more of a detriment than a factor for his team, especially in this World Series. Like, very early in the game, he gives up a 2-run home run in the game where you have to survive, like the do-or-die game, and he's not coming in clutch for you. There's definitely going to be some questions asked, like, where's this unbelievable ace that cannot be stopped in the regular season, but when it hits the postseason, he gets this, like, mental blockage that he can't get the job done.
Yeah, and again, now you have to wonder if he's their ace moving forward, and if he is, how good will he be moving on? Because I think it's very real that we've seen the best of Clayton Kershaw, and now we'll just see the decline of Clayton Kershaw. I think that's real. I don't think he's going to fall off the map. Like, I don't think he's going to be a terrible Major League Baseball starting pitcher. But I think the days of his ERA being under 2, his ERA being under 2.5, like, I think those days are over. That's all. That's where I'm going with this. Like, I think he's going to be more of a number 2, a number 2 starter going forward instead of that. Not just a number 1 starter, but maybe the best pitcher in baseball for many years.
Yeah, especially, I always feel like if you're titled the best pitcher in baseball, you got to be good in the regular season and in the postseason. And obviously, he can't get it. He has some problems in the postseason that needs to be, like, looked at into this if he does opt out of his contract. I know teams will be chomping at the bit to get him, but I would put serious factor of, like, okay, if this is a guy we want to help to get to the World Series, is he going to help us when we get there? If we get there, because wouldn't that be a huge question mark if you're trying to sign him?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think had he had a reputation of postseason success, then his next contract would be larger than it will be, because you're right. He kind of has a history of not performing when it matters. He has that reputation. Unfortunately for him, he hasn't been able to shake those demons. So in turn, does he stay in LA? Even if he does and he opts out, I mean, the bottom line is he
LA of Anaheim. Ooh,
nah. They have their own overpaid player.
Well, no, they're just known for signing very old players or signing out of their prime players, and I think we can both agree that he might be out of his prime now.
Oh yeah, I think that's pretty close to being true than to be not true. That I think it's fairly certain at this point, and he talked about it. He even said, I have to find a way to get my velocity back. I don't know what he can do at this point. He's a guy who Dodgers fans or Dodgers players will all say that Kershaw, prepares himself. He's a guy who takes training seriously, working out seriously. So I don't know if there's anything he can do other than reverse the mileage on his arm, which seems to be impossible.
It's not like a car. You can't do a Ferris Bueller style and just put it in reverse for an eternity. So the bottom line of the matter is, do you sign him still?
I mean,
if so, who you go? Like New York? Well, they probably will sign him because they sign everybody. But
all right, we were going to talk about in the last segment. We can just talk about it right now. He's got 2 years, $70 million left on his contract, but he can opt out. He has 3 days to decide. So Kershaw has until Wednesday of this week to decide if he's opting in or opting out. If he opts in, he gets $70 million over the next 2 years. If he opts out, he becomes an unrestricted free agent. I think he'll opt out. I think he should opt out because I think he should still try and get one last payday before people know that he's done in terms of being a number one instead of just maybe he's done. Because if he, in 2 years, he's not getting a $100 million contract. In 2 years, he's not getting a $150 million contract. But today he can, in my opinion. I think there's a market.
He can still get that much?
I think so. Remember, we're talking about Major League Baseball. If you can throw like 98 miles an hour, and I know he can't, but we're talking about pitchers who are 3s and 4s on staffs. If you can throw 100 miles an hour or 99 miles an hour, you're probably getting $100 million. Probably getting a 5-year contract, $100 million.
I just have a big question mark on him still. Like, I would still be very... Like you said, he's in his 30s. He's well past his prime. He's not throwing as hard as he used to. And he has that trouble in the postseason where he almost just... He's not, like I said, he's a detriment. He's not a...
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
He has 2 years, $70 million left on his contract. Even if we're different, even if our value of Kershaw might be different, do you think that he can get 4 years, $100 million from somebody?
It's not going to be a team that's looking to get in the World Series.
Like the Yankees?
Soon.
They have CC coming on. Sabathia is no longer on the books. They can just transition paying Sabathia to paying Kershaw.
Would you go from Sabathia, an old pitcher, to another old pitcher?
I would because the Yankees have a couple really good pitching prospects, and Kershaw could be the guy that they need to bolster that rotation. Because the Yankees will be young pitching next year. They'll have Severino. They'll have Tanaka. They have a couple young pitchers that are ready to come up. And then you have Kershaw. So you have cheap pitchers. You can afford to spend a little bit on a guy like Kershaw and have that veteran leadership. Yes, he's never won a World Series, but he's played in many, many big games, and he can lead a team to the playoffs.
Those big games. Has he played well in those big games?
But the Yankees need that pitcher, don't they?
Yes, but
what was the Yankees' problem this year? They couldn't pitch when it mattered.
Yeah. But they also did have trouble hitting when it mattered, too.
Right.
Like, granted, they had Judge and Stanton, but those guys are not very consistent.
Because, as we know, in baseball, hitting doesn't always...
We said this at the
doesn't
beginning
always
of our
show up.
Pitching is what matters most.
The Red Sox won this World Series, yes, because they can hit the ball, but David Price had 2 amazing World Series games.
He finally got through that big, huge.
Let's look at both teams. One pitcher is Clayton Kershaw, and he had 2 forgettable World Series games. The other is David Price, and he had 2 incredible World Series games. The Red Sox won 4-1. I mean, I know
got over that giant hill that was in his way.
I know there's a lot more to it than that, but that's really the main thing that happened. I mean, one pitcher had 2 great games, and his team won 2 games. The other pitcher had 2 poor games. His team lost both of them. I mean. It is what it is, you know?
Sometimes you don't talk about the greatest hitting performances of all time. You talk about the greatest pitching performances of all time.
So let's talk about Price. He had some critics just like Kershaw, but he has, I think, moved past that, wouldn't you say, with this postseason?
Definitely faced his critics and beat those critics with a baseball bat.
Yeah. Just like Negan for all you Walking Dead fans. But
it's not wrapped in barbed wire, though. Sorry.
Lucille?
Is it?
Lucille is the name of the bat.
I know it started with an L. I forget if it was Lucille or not.
It's Lucille.
It's awesome. I know why it's spelling Lucille. I read some of the comics and stuff, so I won't spoil it for any fans, though. But anyways, we were getting off topic.
So David Price, I mean, beast. He showed up, right?
Oh, yeah, he did. He had a point to prove. He was determined to prove his detractors wrong, and he sure as heck did.
What about that? I know the weekend we don't do our shows, but did you watch the 18-inning game? Did you, what?
I fell asleep after 15. No, I'm kidding. It was hard to watch at the end because it was getting really late. I was very tired, and I was on the East Coast, so it was really late. But yes, I did. And as soon as he hit that home run, I was just like, oh, the game's over. I can now, I have something to talk about. I was like, oh, so this game continues. We have this main game to talk about, but it ended yesterday. So it was like, that 18 game is all for nothing.
I feel bad for the fans who have to stop drinking at the 7th inning, and then they have to sober up for the next 11 innings.
They had to watch basically 2 games back to back.
They went into the hangover phase when they were still at the ballpark, which, ouch.
How much did you have to drink in those 7 innings to get a hangover by the 18th?
I mean, when you get a little bit older, it's not that much.
It is L.A.
When you get a little bit older, it's not as much as you think.
Honestly, when he hit that walk-off homer, the pitcher was just almost like, oh, thank God this game's over. I can go home.
Yeah, what the Red Sox did was incredible this year. I don't know. It's hard for me to remember the last time there was a team that was that dominant in the regular season that did that in the postseason.
Like the Yankees of the late 90s, they're three-peat.
Did you know that Derek Jeter never won an MVP?
You mean a World Series MVP or just MVP
Just
in
an
general?
MVP.
Really?
I find that incredibly interesting.
I could have sworn he did.
They were talking about great players that had never won an MVP, and he was one of them.
Well, he's won every other award.
They were talking about it on Sunday Night Football last night because Drew Brees has never won MVP, and there are other notable great players. Drew Brees never won MVP.
Drew Brees might win this year. We'll get on that later, but he probably will win this year.
Yeah, in fact, I think that's it for our World Series coverage. The season is over. Baseball now has 109 days until pitchers and catchers report. And then spring training.
I think we should also say congratulations to the world champion Red Sox. A well-deserved win. And you are now on the list of best teams ever.
Yes.
I think that's official.
Boston's a great city, beautiful city. So
they've been so championship deprived.
Yeah.
That city.
No one's gonna feel bad for Boston sports fans when Brady retires and the Red Sox stop winning.
When those teams go on downhills, there's no sympathy for.
If the Celtics win, I don't even know what's gonna happen.
Every team they have is contending for championships as we speak.
Yes, a far cry from a lot of other cities in the United States.
There are some cities that haven't won a championship in centuries, it feels like. And this team just, every other year, they're like, oh, that Boston team's winning a championship.
Yep.
The longest drought for a Boston team is the Bruins, and they won one in 2011.
Yep. That's not that long ago.
So hockey, football, basketball, baseball. Okay, basketball was 2008.
At least their MLS team isn't very good.
Yeah, true. But NBA, they won one in 2008. That's 10 years, but that's still 10 years.
They're probably gonna
so fresh.
They're gonna be close this year, so
they're definitely a contender, which is not fair. Well, not fair for other fans of the sport who have to watch their teams play so bad and hope for a miracle. And then when you're in Boston, you're like, oh, look at that, our team won a championship. Let me just add that to the little
another day, another championship.
Anyways, we're gonna take a short break. Once again, congratulations to the Boston Red Sox on another World Series championship. You are no longer an underdog. You are the big dog. You are the dynasty of this century so far. So we're going to take that break. When we come back, we'll talk about the NFL in this previous week as what's happened. And we might talk about one. Then the segment after that, we'll probably get more into Monday Night Football. But we'll get on that when we return.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. We just finished talking about the World Series as the Red Sox won it against the LA Dodgers in 5. Now we're moving on to the world of football. We have Week 8 to discuss. We'll talk about the bigger games first and then go down the list of most unimportant games. First, we'll talk about the Sunday Night Football matchup between the Saints and the Vikings. Saints win this one by 10 in a 30-20 victory. Drew Brees threw his first interception of the season. Still MVP candidate. My first ballot MVP candidate. I don't know about you. But it was a pretty interesting game to say the least. Everyone, Thielen, once again had 100 yards receiving. 103, so barely made it. But he's still 8 weeks in a row with 100 yards receiving. That's the greatest start for any receiver in NFL history. And he's tied for the longest streak, tied with Calvin Johnson, the Megatron.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Talk about two guys that had completely different verticals to how they got to where they got.
One was the second overall pick, and the other one was
undrafted.
Yeah.
From local hometown.
One
kid.
was a dominant Georgia Tech receiver. The other one was the Division 2?
Yeah, can't remember the college the one went to, but yeah, he basically walked on and made the Vikings. So
yeah, he's from Minnesota too, which is incredible.
It was a weird game though. The Saints didn't put up a lot of yards, but I thought they were very efficient on offense, and they just capitalized on all the mistakes that the Vikings made, including that pick six by Kirk Cousins. That was a brutal play.
Oh, this is also Eli Apple's debut as a Saint.
Mm-hmm.
He had 9 tackles, 9 solo.
It's not good for a DB. It usually means you're giving up the pass, you know?
Yeah, but we kind of expected that going into this game.
The Vikings receivers played really well. I mean, they just made too many mistakes. Cousins got sacked at inopportune times. He threw a pick six. They fumbled.
Granted, he did throw for 359 yards.
Yeah, but I mean, most of it's, coming from behind.
He did get sacked 4 times.
And it seemed like when he got sacked, too, it was just like on big plays. It was like, they'd be driving, and then it'd be like 2nd and 10, and then he'd get sacked, and it's like, okay, well, that kills the drive. Or be on 3rd down. It was just inopportune moments. That pick six was the worst, though. That was brutal.
That put the nail in the coffin.
Mm-hmm.
But listen, I just want to tell you this: the total yards comparison, Saints had 249 total yards. Compared to Minnesota's 444 total yards, and they still won by 10 points.
Yeah, because Minnesota giving the Saints short fields. You can't give it offense like that, short fields. You can't give Drew Brees the ball inside the 40-yard line.
And Minnesota's 2 turnovers to the Saints 1 kind of was also a big factor, like that pick six we talked about.
Pick six, and the other fumble was brutal. I mean, it's just a lot of times, sometimes, especially in an interception, you can be a quarterback and throw the ball 40, 50 yards down the field and it gets picked off, and it's just like a punt. It doesn't really feel like a turnover. But then there's the ones where you flip the field, all of a sudden you give your opponent a short field. That's where those turnovers really stand out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was definitely a mental error type of game where there was a lot of those.
So a revenge game for New Orleans. They get rid of some of those demons from the the divisional game last year where Stephon Diggs scores a touchdown.
You mean where the guy hit the chuck stick way too early and missed him by about a mile, hit his own player, and Diggs had to walk into the end zone?
Yes.
Where, good for him, but he got a 5-year extension because of that.
Yeah.
I don't think he's getting that extension if he doesn't.
Diggs is really good, man.
I don't think he gets that extension without that play, though. That big of an extension, at least.
I don't know. We'll see. Let's move on to the Packers and Rams. Interesting game. Very low scoring in the first half. The final score ends up being 29-27 Los Angeles. So at the end of the day, the game, there is points on the board, but it was surprising. I thought the Packers had a great game plan. They came in, they controlled the first half, but unfortunately they couldn't keep that Rams offense down long enough. As the second half, we saw a different Rams team, the one that we're accustomed to seeing, that we have seen all season. I mean, the Rams score 21 points in the second half to win that game. We saw Todd Gurley again. He's just on a tear right now. Todd Gurley, you just talked about Drew Brees. I think Todd Gurley's the MVP right now. Like today, like if they had to do the voting today, Todd Gurley, what he's doing is incredible. He's on a touchdown scoring rampage.
The man is unstoppable.
And he could have scored another one. He stopped at the 2-yard line to make the smart play to end the game last
Pretty
night.
respectful in all consideration.
He could have walked right in and everybody would have been, man, another touch. I saw fantasy football fans all upset at him like, aren't you spoiled enough?
I don't think he cares.
Aren't you spoiled enough?
I don't think he cares about those fantasy players. I think he cares about a Super Bowl ring he wants on his finger or the MVP trophy.
Smart play by him, and you can tell that when a player does that, that winning means more to them than scoring touchdowns. But it also is something to be said how easy it is to say, no, I don't need to score this touchdown when you scored so many all season.
This is true based off of Todd Gurley, like we said, being borderline unstoppable.
The Packers played good, though. Like, see, here's the thing for me. Like, here's the thing, Jeff. The Packers had a week off, so they had 2 weeks to prepare for the Rams. They came in with a great game plan. The first half, their defense was stifling Jared Goff in that offense. The Rams looked all out of sorts. They could not move the football. They were punting. It didn't look like the Rams that we know. And yet, they still win the game. That's why I think that they're the best team in football right now. I think they're the best team in football. I think that even when they have a bad game or an off day, they'll still find a way to win. So,
yeah, it was definitely They keep their undefeated season for sure, but the fact of the matter is, this team is the best team in the NFL. This is a statement game. Like, we are the best, and quite frankly, it's really hard to say if anyone can beat them.
yeah. So let's take a look at another game where there's another team that has a shout for best team in the NFL. The Kansas City Chiefs. They beat the Denver Broncos 30-23 yesterday. Interesting game as we saw Mahomes again go over 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. Kareem Hunt, he didn't have the biggest game on the ground, but he did have a big impact in this game. He definitely, I would say that he had the touchdown of the season in the NFL. Did you see Kareem Hunt's touchdown yesterday on that short pass where he hurdled the guy and then carried a dude?
You mean where he jumped, it felt like 15 feet in the air like Superman, and then he carried that guy like he was a train?
Yeah, like there was no stopping him on that play.
Like,
he was determined.
He looked like straight up out of like NFL blitz.
So we're looking at this poster right here that says determination. They should change the picture and put Kareem Hunt jumping over that dude. Maybe carrying the guy.
It is the picture of, I believe, the Grand Canyon.
Yes.
Which he could probably leap that too.
Yeah, so what a game for the Chiefs. Again, I don't think they had their best game yesterday, but we're starting to see their defense play a little bit better. We saw Keenum get sacked. We saw him make some turnover. I mean, we're seeing a Kansas City defense that's more competent in the last few weeks.
They're getting confidence, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Which, honestly, I would not be surprised. I don't think anyone would be surprised seeing a Chiefs-Rams Super Bowl. I would personally love to see it.
Yeah, there's an argument to be made. But before we see that Super Bowl, we'll get to see them play each other here in a couple weeks,
which I am excited about. But honestly, that is probably the one big. If the Rams beat the Chiefs that week, they could go 16-0.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, we'll see. I think the Rams will lose a game. I don't know if it would be week.
Their schedule looks pretty good.
It is week 11 when they play, by the way. So let's move on to Bengals and Bucks. So the big takeaway, the Bengals and Bucks, as the Bengals won 37-34. Mm-hmm. They give up the big lead, but they come back and they win the game. But the big takeaway here is Winston.
Say it. You can say it.
The big takeaway is Fitzmagic. Yeah. Oh, Fitzmagic, he's back. You know he's back, dude. He's going to be back. The Bucks now have a decision to make at quarterback now that they've replaced Winston with Fitzpatrick.
Winston did throw 4 interceptions, so he has, 10 total interceptions?
The worst. He throws the worst interceptions, too.
He has 10 total interceptions since returning from that injury.
Which is 9 more than Drew Brees.
And how long? He's 4 games?
Is 4-3? Yeah, something like that. 4, I think is right.
It's
yeah,
4 games and he's thrown 10 picks.
I think it's actually 3. He got suspended.
No, I think it's 4.
He got suspended for 3 games, and then Fitzpatrick started one more game and he screwed up, right?
So 4 games.
I think it's 3, but it could be 4.
So that's week 5, 6, 7, 8. So 4.
Well, they've played 7 games though.
They had a bye week?
Yeah, they had a bye. They made the change during the bye week.
Oh my God, it might be actually 3 weeks.
I'm pretty sure they did because Fitzpatrick started off hot, and then
we just know he's terrible right now.
So what do? They go back to Fitzpatrick or Winston? What do you say?
He throws 2 touchdowns, averages 12 yards a pass, which is also pretty impressive.
So what do you say? What do they do?
You're
the coach now. You're Dirk Cutter.
For a guy that's thrown 10 picks,
play Fitzpatrick.
Go sign Kaepernick.
Play Fitzpatrick. He had 1 bad game and you benched him. Like, come on. All right, let's move on.
That game was really bad.
Ravens-Panthers. Very surprising game. I really thought the Ravens were going to give the Panthers fits, but the Panthers, impressive win. 36-21 against the best defense in the NFL. I'm somebody who's been very critical of Cam Newton, but I thought he played a very good game.
21-29.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're going to say that, but I had it.
No, you're good. You're good. 21-29. They ran the ball effectively. I think everything they did on offense was great. The Ravens, they got smacked yesterday, and I thought that was an impressive win for Carolina, who is now quietly 5-2.
I think we also need to talk about Lamar Jackson because he threw his first touchdown pass.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little soft coverage there, but
it's his first. Let him have it.
There's no controversy here, though, as Flacco will still be the quarterback moving forward. So,
can I say something real quick?
Go ahead.
The running game for Baltimore needs to improve. When you only give your running back 11 attempts,
it's not good.
And Lamar Jackson got 3 attempts.
They really just don't have any running backs. So, like, all the running backs are not good.
Give him a chance. 11 attempts is nothing. That's borderline nothing.
Yeah, I mean, but they were trailing for most of that game, so you understand why they were throwing the ball 40 times. But yeah, let's move on to
44 times.
Let's move on to the rest of the NFL. Jets and Bears. Bears 24, Jets 10. I think most people saw this one coming, as the Jets don't really have enough offense to beat a defense like Chicago's and make it competitive. Pretty easy win. Anything you'd like to mention from the Bears and Jets?
Sam Darnold started hot this season, and he's officially burnt. He's burnt out.
Yeah. Isaiah Crowell, 13 carries for 25 yards. On the other side, Jordan Howard, 22 for 81 and a touchdown. He gets back on track.
Darnold had 3 rushing yards less than Crowell did, and he had 5 attempts compared to his 13.
So then we move across the pond as we saw Jacksonville lose again. They lose this time to Philadelphia.
How many times have they played in London? In the last, let's say 5 years?
Their owner is basically resides there, so...
Well, he's no longer bidding for Wembley, so I don't think they're not going to be the London Jaguars anytime soon.
Maybe not, but they lose 24-18. The Eagles are getting back on track. They really needed this win to stay in the race in the NFC, as we know how tight the race is right now. I know it sounds weird to talk playoff race, but in the NFC, I think you got to talk about it earlier than you do in the AFC. Jaguars go to 3-5. Bortles, I thought, played decent.
He led his team in rushing yards. So just let that slide.
I think that he's a guy that he'll get blame even when he doesn't lose games for them. But I thought he had a decent game yesterday. Obviously, I don't think he performed spectacularly, but they had their running game. The Eagles still, it feels weird to me, man. I don't know about you, but it just feels like there's something off. Like, it doesn't feel like they're the same team. Like
the Jaguars. Or you mean the Eagles? Or the Jaguars?
Yeah, the Eagles.
Well, I'm saying the Jaguars did drop to 3-5, which they were predicted to be in the AFC title game once again. So they are also not the same team they were last year.
But that one you can see coming because unless you have supreme confidence,
they didn't lose a lot of guys.
But the thing is that you don't have a lot of confidence in Blake Bortles. So you can see why a team like that would struggle.
It wasn't his fault they lost, though.
No, but you can see why that they would have a struggle this year to maintain what they did last year, because they don't have a guy like a Rodgers or a Brady, somebody who's reliable and consistent and can just win games.
Would you sign like a Colin Kaepernick right now?
I
Because
think
that's what a lot of people are saying.
I think for the Jaguars, they just have to ride this thing through. They got to ride this thing out.
But yeah, you're right. As for the Eagles, though, they are not the same Super Bowl team they were last year. They're definitely still a contender for the NFC East. But right now, I think the Redskins are taking that East.
So last week when you were gone, I said that the Seahawks and Lions was kind of an early season elimination game because both teams were 3-3, and both teams had really tough schedules.
So you're saying the Jags are done?
No, I was talking about Seahawks Lions.
Oh, sorry.
So they both were 3-3 coming into this game, and I did say whoever loses this game is out. There's no chance. Detroit loses.
I kind of saw Lions go out regardless.
But I mean, it would be very, very difficult from here on out. So 3-4. As the Seahawks win 28-14, they improved to 4-3 as the Lions go to 3-4. So Seattle's quietly winning these games comfortably. What's your takeaway from this game?
I don't see either of these teams making the playoffs, to be honest, just because of what divisions they're in and competitiveness of those divisions. The Seahawks are still trying to find their new, their new title. Like, they're no longer like the Legion of Boom dominant defense. Mm-hmm. They're looking for a new identity.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't think they still know what that is yet. But they are making progress in finding that identity.
Yeah. You think we should take a quick break and then come back and do the last 3 games and then the Monday Night Football preview?
I think we should.
All right. So we'll do that right after this.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. We are talking about the NFL Week 8. We've gone through some of the games. We're going to finish up.
Steelers-Browns.
Steelers-Browns.
33-18 Steelers. Hugh Jackson, the seat seems to be getting a little warmer. Not sure.
Should be on fire. He should be away from the seat.
He shouldn't have a seat.
Yes. It should be ashes by now. But apparently he's still there. He's running out of excuses.
So Pittsburgh, they just continue their dominance over Cleveland. They win again. Roethlisberger had a good game. Mayfield struggled. He was hit, a lot harassed. James Conner, though. James Conner is making a lot of Steelers fans forget about Le'Veon Bell.
I mean, 24 attempts, 145 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 130-yard run. He did lose a fumble, granted.
He actually is doing things that even Le'Veon Bell didn't do before in terms of scoring and things like that. So he's making his presence felt. So, but now we hear that Le'Veon Bell should be reporting.
We said that last 3 weeks in a row.
But after I think tomorrow's the trade deadline, if I remember correctly. Then he says he will be back.
So after the trade deadline, he'll be back.
Yes, that's what he said initially, and then he said after the bye week, so it made it sound, I don't know, but he should be back.
I don't trust him anymore.
What do you think happens from here on out? You think they split the carries, they split the touches, or?
I have no clue because I don't know if he's even going to be back Because who knows when he's like, I'll be back week 7, didn't show up. I'll be back after the trade deadline, to be determined.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know. It just seems like I don't trust his word anymore.
You don't trust him?
I'm now at a point where it's like, just don't tell me you're going to show up. Just show up.
Just show up.
And then I'll believe you.
Okay. So, yes, October 30th, that is tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. That is the trade deadline. So, tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific Time will be the deadline. And now, we have seen a couple trades. We saw Michael Thomas. Amari Cooper, not Michael Thomas. Well, that probably confused a lot of people.
Those are two completely different people.
I was thinking Eli Apple and Amari Cooper, and I don't know how I landed on Michael Thomas. But Eli Apple, Amari Cooper, Snacks Harrison also got traded. I think we're going to see a few more trades. Not to stray too far off topic here, but I think we're going to see a few more trades. We've seen guys like Demaryius Thomas, Pierre Garçon. Those are names of players that apparently are on the radar for.
I don't think. But what do you give for them? Like a second-round pick?
Yeah, it just depends. We'll talk about that more in our football podcast that you can check out later on after this one, actually. So please take a look at that. Take a listen.
We're begging you, please. No, I'm kidding.
Let's move on, though, to Redskins-Giants. Redskins-Giants 2013, the Redskins win. 5-2 for the Redskins as they still maintain the lead in the NFC East. 5-2. Alex Smith and those Washington Redskins.
I did not see this coming, did you? And
No.
Adrian Peterson playing extremely well.
You see his 64-yard touchdown run, looking like the old AP.
And he had a touchdown reception.
Yeah.
And that wasn't an easy. It was like a 5-10 yard.
Yeah, he had a nice little juke.
He had a break free to get there.
Yeah. OBJ had a few really awesome catches in this game, in the losing effort for the Giants. Did you get a chance to see those? Or were you on the plane yesterday?
I was on the plane, unfortunately.
OBJ had a couple real nice one-handed snags.
Oh, wait, the one where he's getting tackled and catching the ball at the same time.
He had one
I saw
of
that
play.
play.
Then he had one over the middle where he kind of pulled it back, too.
Thanks, United Airlines, for not having like televisions or anything during your flights. Appreciate it, especially on a 6-hour flight.
So moving on to the last two games, both on the West Coast, which probably nobody paid attention to other than the fans of these teams. The Colts, they beat the Oakland Raiders 42-28. The highest scoring game of the day, believe it or not. Andrew Luck.
Of all teams, really.
Andrew Luck, 3 touchdowns. Derek Carr had 3 touchdowns as well. A lot of offense, not a lot of defense in this game. What's your takeaway?
Marlon Mack's a beast.
Yeah, 132 yards and 2 touchdowns.
He's been playing extremely well, and I think the Colts need to ride him until the end of the season.
Colts are now 3-5, so they improve again. We'll see if they can get on a streak here because they really are at 3-5. They're going to need to win a handful of games in a row before they lose again. So the Raiders dropped to 1-6.
Those first round picks are looking pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah, it's I mean, I don't know what to say. Oakland, and let's just go to the last game of the day. Niners lose to the
Worst
Cardinals.
game of the week.
They blow the lead late.
It was
it's a trend.
15-3. There was a safety in the first quarter, and it was pretty boring.
It's a trend. This is what happens when you have a backup quarterback against a struggling rookie quarterback. You have an 18-15 game where everything, you have no idea what to expect, and except for you just expect incompetency across the board. So the Niners lose. Arizona goes to 2-6. They've only beaten the Niners this year, but they've beat them both times. The Niners are 1-7.
Remember when the Niners were bad, I think a year or two ago, and they beat the Rams twice, and that was their only 2 wins of the season?
Chip Kelly?
Yeah. Oh, wow. God, I forgot about that.
They beat Jeff Fisher twice.
They beat Jeff Fisher twice.
Yeah. So the Niners go to 1-7, staking their claim for the number 1 draft pick. We'll see. They separate themselves from the Cardinals a little bit for the number 1 pick. But Thursday night, Niners Raiders. We'll have a preview for you there. All right, Jeff. We got to move on quickly to the Monday Night Football preview. We got the Bills Patriots. What do you see happening?
I'm glad you said that because there are some. I'm moving paper for effect. Is pretty important stats right here.
Go, boom, fire them at me.
Okay, fine. Points per game, 11 to 30.6.
I think I can figure out which one has the 11.
Exactly. But when it comes to points allowed per game, 25 to 25.6. The
Bills' defense have been all right.
The Bills give up less points than the Patriots do.
Well, that makes sense because you only have to score 12 against the Bills.
And then you look at passing yards, 268, and then 156 for the Bills. 156 a game.
That's rushing yards.
No, it's not. That's passing yards. That's
you double check that?
I triple check because I thought that wasn't true. That less than 200 a game is awful. I don't care if you're Derek Anderson.
Do you have any more fun stats? I'm having fun here.
999 total yards allowed for the Patriots.
I thought you were going to say beers on the wall.
909. Okay, anyways, 399.6 total yards allowed by the Patriots on defense, and 335.3 total yards for the Bills. So the Bills technically have a better defense, but that passing yards per game is such a lopsided, like 156. That's all you can muster up in a game, and this is halfway through the season.
So what you're saying is you have the Bills by 10?
I have the Patriots by 45. But no, I have the Patriots taking this one, no question about it. But also, I have to name the key players that are out at the moment.
Gronk might be out.
Josh Allen is reported out yet again, and LaShawn McCoy is questionable.
Derek Anderson, woohoo!
That's why I'm saying the Patriots are going to win this. And another key player for the Patriots, Sonny Michel, is ruled out.
Yeah, they don't need to play him.
But he has been a huge help for that team, though.
They don't need him tonight.
They don't need him tonight against the Bills.
They don't need Gronk either. Gronk's questionable, so...
Yeah,
he made the trip, though, this time. Instead of last game, he didn't even make the trip. So
yeah, but I'm saying that the Bills have 11 points per game, and it's like not even like one game, and they only had 11 points that game. It's like, this is week 8 of the season. You're halfway through the season. You can only muster up 11 points per game.
Yeah.
Like, they might be, even though they're 2-5, they might be the worst team in the NFL.
Absolutely. You could make that argument. I think so, especially with Nathan Peterman or Derek Anderson. If one of those guys is your quarterback, you
pick a gunshot to the face or poison.
I say they should just let Peterman play. I mean, Derek Anderson is not good.
How about sign Colin Kaepernick? I know I've been saying that last whole segment, the whole show, but my God, if anyone needs to sign Colin Kaepernick, it's the Bills.
I don't think so.
1 year, $1 million contract is all you need for like 4 games.
First off, he's not going to play for that. Second off,
he'll play for anything. He's not playing in the NFL.
He turned down a $10 million contract.
No,
for Denver.
He was thinking about the Nike commercial. I don't know.
All right. So, anyways, the Bills have no. There's no reason for them to try and win these games. They don't need to get a Kaepernick off the street so he can win 4 games.
Unless they win 9 straight and go 11-5 on the year.
Yeah, that's not happening.
You don't know.
I know. There's a 14-point spread tonight, which
that's kind of late.
Why can't they flex the Monday night games? They flexed the Niners game out. Why can't they the Niners Packers Niners Rams?
It's Tom Brady. That's why.
Yeah, I get it.
My friend.
I know,
Tom
but
Brady's the GOAT. But looking at these stats, I don't see any reason the Bills will win this game.
Yeah. So what do you think the score will be?
Give me 35-3.
35-3.
Okay, I lied. 35-10. I'll give him 1 touchdown.
Yeah, I think the Patriots will win. I'll say, yeah, I can see that. I'd say 31-13. 31-13. So it shouldn't be close. I think if we're here tomorrow talking about how good the game was, then it means the Patriots played terrible. Like we'll
have a moment of silence.
There's no avenue for me that says, oh, the Bills could win this game and the Patriots could be playing a good game. There's no. But all right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some news and notes. Big shakeup in the NBA as one head coach has already been fired a week and a half into the season. We will talk about some sad news in England in the English Premier League. We'll talk about the notable wins and losses in college football from this last weekend.
Oh, yes, we need to talk about that.
So we'll talk about those 3 things in the last 10 minutes of the show. We'll do that right when we come back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. We are on the final stretch. We've talked about every game in the NFL Week 8, and we talked about the World Series. Now we're going on to NBA news as the Cavaliers head coach Tyronn Lue is canned after 0-6 start.
He's gone.
And some former players of the Cavs, like LeBron James, have said their piece about it and don't agree with the firing of him because, quite honestly, the loss of players is not his fault.
Yeah. 0-6, Ty Lue gone. Kevin Love is out. He's hurt. Sounds like he'll be gone for over a month now. I don't know, man. I get it. I understand the frustration. I don't know if Ty Lue should have been fired. I don't know if he's a good coach either. So it's one of those things where, like, I would be concerned or questioning the firing if I knew he was a good coach, but I do not know if he is. But I will say this, Jeff.
I don't think it's his fault they're 0-6, though.
I will say this.
What?
The 0-6 start, what that tells me, the story that I get from that is LeBron James is just really, really good. And that when he leaves, everything just falls apart.
It didn't even happen in Miami. like
everything
Dwayne Wade
falls
is still there.
apart.
Yeah, like Dwayne Wade may be the greatest player of all time, just because how good he makes one terrible. Like, okay, the Lakers aren't playing very well, granted, but
they're way better than they were last year.
Comparing everyone who thought they would be good last year to now, like they weren't even playoff contention. Now they're all of a sudden they're NBA championship contenders because of one guy, LeBron James. That's how good he is. He can make any team. He can go to the worst team in the league, let's say the Sacramento Kings, and make them a championship contender.
Yeah. So
he can go to a Division II high school team and make them contenders.
Wouldn't
in the
it be
NBA
something
title.
that both times LeBron leaves Cleveland, they get the number one pick the following year? Wouldn't that be something?
I think it's suspicious to say
a year after going to the
they
finals.
got 2 number 1 picks when he was gone. That's suspicious to me.
Yeah, they blew one, but yep, you're right.
Anthony Bennett.
Oof.
Where's he now? I'm going to look him up.
Probably playing in like China.
Or not even playing at all.
Yeah, so the Cavs fired Ty Lue. I don't know. It is funny. I mean,
he plays for the Maine Red Crows of the G League. He's in the NBA technically.
So Ty Lue gone. Not sure what to make
Maine
of it.
Red Claws, excuse me. They're lobsters. Their logo's a lobster.
So Larry Drew's the interim
this.
coach. So we'll see if that remains. If he remains in that role, or if they move on during the season.
Fun fact: they're an affiliation of the Celtics.
Interesting.
Just look at this. Look at the Maine Red Claws.
Nice.
It's a cartoon lobster as their logo. I love it.
Yeah. So I want to move on to some sad news. As Leicester City in the English Premier League, who. They are famous because they won the Premier League in 2016 after a 5,000 to 1 odds. They ascended in English football from the 3rd division all the way up to the English Premier League to an English Premier League title in 6 years, which is one of the most incredible feats ever accomplished in this sport. And sadly, their owner, and I'm probably going to pronounce his name wrong, Vishay Srivaddhana Prabha, he has passed away as his helicopter leaving the stadium after their draw the other night went up and came down. Not sure if there was a mechanical failure, but the helicopter crashed just 100 yards or so, a few hundred yards from the stadium itself after leaving from the center of the stadium. He has passed away, him and 4 others. So sad news there. Very, very upsetting in the soccer community, in the English Premier League community. But our thoughts go out to his family and to the Leicester City community as they suffer through this tragedy. And we'll see what they do, what the league does, and what the team does to honor him. A man from Thailand who bought the team in 2010 and again poured a lot of money into the club, made them relevant, and made them champions, which is the most incredible thing I've personally ever witnessed in the English Premier League. So his legacy will at least be known for that.
Yeah, it's a very sad time in the world of sports. Like you said, our thoughts and prayers go to the families of the people that lost their lives in the helicopter crash. It's just an absolute horrible tragedy that's happened.
Yeah. So we'll move on to college football and talk about some of the notable games. Jeff, did you get a chance to see Oklahoma State upset Texas 38-35?
It was at one point a slaughter by Oklahoma State. Then Texas came roaring back, and they could not finish the comeback, and they lost their chance at a potential college football playoff bid.
Yeah, I think
they
this
went all the way down to 15 after that.
I think this one does it in for them. We saw some other top 25 teams lose. Arizona smacked Oregon. That has to drop them out of the top 25, right?
Yeah, alma mater.
Doesn't Oregon
44-15. What a game!
Are you looking at the rankings right now? Because Oregon has to be out, right? They dropped.
I can look at them once again. I have them open.
Go ahead and look at them. I'll tell you some scores. What about Washington? 14. They beat Stanford by 3. Number 24 ranked Stanford. Another impressive win for the Cougars. So, you know, they come back. They win this game. They get the game-winning field goal with just seconds left, 19 seconds left.
Oregon is out of the top 25 after that loss to Arizona.
So is Washington in the top 10 now? They're probably
Washington
like 11.
lost to Cal.
Washington State, I'm sorry. Washington State
is number 10.
Number 10. Stanford's out of the top.
Congratulations to UCF. They finally went up a spot. They're number 9 now.
So the Pac-12 lost Oregon and Stanford and Washington's out of the top 25.
They lost to an unranked Cal who wasn't very good.
So they're out of the top 25.
And Wisconsin's also out. Georgia Southern got votes for top 25 bid after beating Appalachian State. Appalachian State is out.
Notre Dame and Clemson took care of business. They won easily, both teams. So the number 2 and 3 stay.
The biggest drop by far is
Texas,
right? Going 9 spots. Texas A&M also went down 9 spots after their upset loss.
LSU is now top 4, huh? Wow.
It is LSU's been top 4 for a little bit now, for a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
The number 1 through 5 have not changed. 1 through 5 have not changed. Mm-hmm. Georgia went up 1 spot. Oklahoma went up a spot. Ohio State went back up. In the top 10.
UCF is in the top 10.
I said number 9.
Woo!
Congratulations to them. West Virginia went up to 12. Florida went down to 13. Penn State went up 3 spots to 14. Utah went up 7 spots, number 16. Houston State at number 17. Utah State is number 18. That's kind of a shocker to me.
Whoa.
They've been that for a week or so now, but still Utah State.
If you would have said there's 2 teams in Utah that are going to be ranked this year, I would say BYU has to be one of them. But they're not.
They're not. It's Utah State.
So Utah 41-10.
Syracuse went up in the rankings as well after beating their NC State not rival, but NC State in a very handle. They scored 51 points on NC State. Now they're up to 22.
A lot of teams
taking
got
NC
smacked.
taking NC State out of the top 25.
A lot of those. There's a lot of new teams in the top 25 because all those bottom teams lost. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Washington.
Fresno
is
State's number 20. Oh boy.
Yeah, it's like I wonder if a Carr brother is a part of that team again.
Well, you have anything you want to talk about in college football, or are we done here for today?
All I have to say is looking into the next week.
Well, we'll do a preview for the next week. We'll talk.
I'm just saying there's not like a big like high-ranked team versus high-ranked team type of matchup. All the top 5 teams are playing unranked teams. So we'll hope for surprises so we have something to talk about. But other than that, I think we are all done here. Thank you so much for joining us today. Tune us in tomorrow. We'll talk more about the sports. We'll talk about Monday Night Football and other things that have happened in the world of sports, mostly basketball since that's going on. MLB season's over. There's more to talk about that. And we will see you tomorrow for more news on sports. I am Jeff. That is Mark. And we will see you next time.
Later.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.